Storms dumped nearly 10 inches of heavy rain on parts of the Midwest early this morning. Stretches of highway under waist-deep water had to be closed as cars were nearly swept away.
The country is on track to see the coldest August spell in 95 years.
And it's not just the East Coast, it's the West Coast, too.
It's horrible. I've never seen anything like this.
That dangerous flooding from some very potent storms that have dumped more than a foot of rain in some parts of the East Coast. Take a look at this.
I know she didn't expect this.
I got that first one.
But take a look at this. You're looking at a huge storm known as a haboob.
Even the mountains of Scotland may see some snow. That's expected for the first time in almost 100 years.
We've been here for 25 years, and this is the worst we've had.
Look at this surveillance video. Cameras rolling during the quake itself, vehicles shaking as debris falls all around.
Half a foot of rain fell in the Midwest and Washington state. Mudslides damaged homes and covered highways.
In this country, we're keeping an eye on a triple threat of severe weather threatening millions as we head into the weekend. Torrential downpours swept through a good swath of the country.
Across in some spots. This is in the rural area 50 miles west of the city of Hermosillo in the state of Sonora.
Flooding is not just a problem in the Midwest. From upstate New York to western Pennsylvania, creeks unexpectedly overflowed into homes.
3:20 a.m. Sunday, the quake strikes in the dead of night. The earth-shattering moment caught on surveillance video, shaking people out of bed.
A magnitude 7.0 earthquake that struck just a short time ago.
Thunderstorms brought flash floods, as much as 4 inches falling in 1 hour.
Highways crumbling, parts of southeast Michigan in a state of emergency.
I've never seen anything like this.
They could be approached. I'm not knowing anything about dolphins, whether or not they'd be aggressive or
First dealt with an earthquake.
The day began with a magnitude 4.5 earthquake. There were no injuries or damage, but the day will end with the first of 2 hurricanes, a rare double threat.
Hawaii is standing up to the biggest storm to hit the islands in 22 years.
Up and down the West Coast.
Heavy rains behind a landslide in North Salt Lake, Utah. Touchdown in Clark County. This is extremely rare.
I know, it seems hard to believe.
We're getting gusts in the area that are very consistent, even though their strength is rather unexpected.
Almost a half foot of rain falling, the water rising to the clearance under highways. Only the tops of cars visible from above.
This is not what you expect to see at your local strip mall. A sinkhole opening up after extreme.
You know, probably the best evidence we have to try to figure out what's going on here is actually no evidence that fits together unless you look at a big, broad picture.
Dealing with the approach of the nemesis dwarf star we call Nibiru, the dwarf star. Kind of 2 conclusions I can come is either number 1, it's true, or number 2, it's a very important what we call red flag information op. Because we know there's no doubt that, and I've researched it for years, and we have other experts, that there is an approach of a dwarf star, but I know it's coming. And then when I see all this corroboration happening of all these different sources, this is definitely a coordinated leak of information at the very least, either by our intelligence or foreign intelligence agency.
They know that they're all consolidating their food banks. You know, all these things fit together. And what about the murals in the Denver airport predicting the end of the world, some cataclysmic thing?
Beginning on July 10th, I got word from 2 independent sources. The first source is a Department of Defense spouse who attended a briefing for spouses of men and women connected to continuity of government contingency planning, which is, once again, maybe 1% of the military and Department of Defense personnel. At the briefing, they were told about Nibiru, the 10th planet, and shown a map very similar to the map of my DVD, Global Warming, what the government's been telling you, showing flooding of all coastal areas, and told that they would be put on standby to be evacuated, and they might get as much as 2 weeks' notice. They may not. Later the same day, I got confirmation from a person inside the Department of Homeland Security verifying what the first witness was saying, with no further detail. Then another co-host on Republic Broadcast, Mr. Mike Harris, he has his own 2 private sources, one of whom is a intelligence officer, a high-ranking decision-making intelligence officer with a foreign intelligence service, who gave two specific dates. This is the only source for the two specific dates,
right.
August 17th and September 26th. The source said that August 17th would be the closest passage for the Nibiru going into our solar system, and September 26th for the closest passage coming out.
But we're going to see things happen such as asteroid storms, things like the Bible, where we talk about great fervent heat from the sky and red dust and comet and asteroid storms. These things are going to happen.
Fireball reports coming in from across the nation. Nibiru fireballs falling from the sky.
It's headed for us right now. The Soviet forces, the foreign forces, all of us have an alien war going on. The Red Chinese right now are getting it in full brunt. The Russians are shooting down per province. There are about 9 provinces in their motherland. They're shooting down at the rate of 50 of these saucers per month and ships. They're heaping piles of them in outer Mongolia, mountains of them. They just tow them out there and let them sit out there.
Does the alien agenda dictate the agenda of the world globalists right now, the people that want world government?
Yes, they do in total and entirety. They may even be in charge.
And are some of our high-level officials, perhaps from the president on down, are they aware of this?
Yes, they are. They're all aware of it.
A little bit slow coming in. Is it slowing down, or what's the story with its arrival?
Well, this is the problem, you see, because everybody's speculating. A lot of people just go ahead and say, it's the end of the world, we're going to get hit by this huge heavenly body that's going to come in, it's going to tear off the surface of the earth, it's going to cause untold destruction, we're going to have meteorite showers. It's the proper end times prophecy, because this will change everything if this thing turns up. So, and we'll see if we can find any credibility. How's that sound?
What can we as humanoids do to... we're not humanoids, we're humans. Humans, all right. Well, anyway, what can we do to stop this? By doing exactly what we're doing right now. I mean, gathering, listening, and what I'm doing, getting out in the public and talking about it.
The Jet Propulsion Laboratory Near Earth Object Program, Near Earth Object on the timeline. So what I do is I get in there and I move it until it's as close to Earth as it will be. And at that point, at one time that point was 17,000 miles. It's now 5,000 miles as of 2 days ago.
5,000 miles where?
We're 6 months out before it'll be that close. And
you're talking about 5,000 miles to Earth?
Yes, to the surface of the Earth.
No, this is a bullet that's going to whiz past the Earth. That's like going to give you a haircut if you had a bullet. That's crazy. 5,000 miles?
That's crazy close.
Basically, our entire system moves around a point in space. And this point in space, we believe, is a star.
A partner star. There's one sun which is part of the planetary system, and there's one sun outside the... The yogis of ancient India accepted the binary model as a matter of fact.
The theory, the binary, is that our sun is rotating around another sun.
With so many binaries in the heavens, why wouldn't our sun have a partner? At the edge of our solar system is a field of asteroids known as the Kuiper Belt. The asteroids appear to end very abruptly. Perhaps we've already seen our sun's binary companion.
Are you aware of this asteroid headed toward the Earth? Yes, Nemesis is called Nemesis. It's a brown star. It's probably hollow. It's maybe not a star at all. Has a specific gravity of a little less than 2, 1.718 or something like that, which means it's extremely hollow and light. It has a mass of 10 times the size of Jupiter. It is so massive, it's dragging comets and meteoritic material with it, and space garbage and debris. It's dragging it at such a rate, just the debris encircling our solar system enough to destroy half the planets of it. So, yeah, it'll be a...
Says that these are being reported all over the United States.
Dr. Harrington was actually the chief astronomer for the US Naval Observatory. We're talking about the American military here. this becomes a bit of an odd story because Dr. Robert Harrington, he thought that he'd found Planet X. Now, the reason he thought he'd found it was because the orbits of some of our planets were being messed around with. So we've got Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, and they call it it's perturbation of the orbits. So in other words, there's some large other planet. This is how they found all the planets originally. They found the orbits were being messed around with, and they went looking for an object that was messing with the planetary orbits. When he's completing his observations and he sent them off to NASA, he took a load of films, plotted the orbit of Planet X. He said he'd found it, and all those films went off to NASA and were mysteriously never seen again. Now, so he disappears mysteriously. Pictures of two suns, and they've had these in mainstream media, believe it or not. Not so much in the United States. This has been China and Russia have gone with these stories, talking about two suns in the sky. People are taking clear pictures of it, and it's all very real indicators that Nibiru is coming in to trash everything, and it's nearly here. Now, this is the Google box. Now, a lot of people have said that the image behind there is actually of Nibiru and Google is censoring it. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have.
Now, I happen to have a copy of the image they say is behind this black box and being censored. Look at this. That's a creepy looking image, isn't it?
That's the creepiest looking planet. I mean, it's scary looking.
We know that the largest, we call super tsunami that struck the west coast of North America was 550,000 years ago when a volcanic island in the Hawaiian chain broke off and fell into the ocean and created a tsunami 1.5 miles high that struck over 500,000 years ago. We know that Vieques probably knocks off pieces of chunks of material that literally creates tsunamis that are on the order of, say, 1,000 or 2,000 years. These things are not like impossible to happen in our day, and we've been monitoring and have British scientists as well as American monitoring the actual sliding of the rock face, and all they need is steam between the rock face there and increased volcanism, which is now creating a whole new island near El Hierro, just south of it. So we know that El Hierro is going to break off. The Tsunami Research Center in Zurich, Switzerland, these are hard-nosed scientists. The Research Center in San Jose, California have all said they've done their own simulations, computer modeling, and with supercomputers, and they know that this is a grave danger.
Now, if you've known about something for, I don't know, let's give this 40 years, something that's going to happen and it's going to affect the surface of the planet, but you have no idea where it's going to land, and that's...
Cyclone Dalby has ripped across Australia's tropical northeast since making landfall in the early hours of Tuesday morning and causing widespread destruction and power outages. However, the cyclone quickly weakened after making landfall and by Tuesday evening had been downgraded from a Category 4 to a Category 2 storm. The full extent of the storm damage is not yet known.
It's one of the world's most active volcanoes and was the stuff of legend all the way back in Roman times. But Mount Etna in Sicily has sat quiet for nearly 2 years. That was until late February when it started erupting again. Volcanologists in Italy are using drones and thermal imaging cameras to study changes on Mount Etna and see what's causing the latest eruptions.
During this day we perform a thermal image, GPS measurement and lava flow mapping, also using drone to better understand how the flow field evolved during this eruption.
Etna is Europe's highest volcano and can burst into action several times a year. Its last major eruption was in 1992.
Parts of the central United States are bracing for more severe weather following a string of violent thunderstorms. A camera captured hail yesterday cracking a car window. The powerful storm hammered parts of North Texas and Oklahoma. In some places, people reported hail larger than baseballs. Radar shows the storm sweeping across the southern plains. David Begnaud is near Dallas in Highland Village, Texas. David, good morning.
Good morning. Look at this windshield. There are dents all over this vehicle, some that are deep enough to hold water. You know, a lot is made about tornadoes being so severe, right? They can be deadly, but a lot of times tornadoes can hit and miss in an area, might affect a couple dozen people, and they're quick. This hailstorm lasted in some areas up to 10 minutes. And what you had was hail that was forming at 40 to 50,000 feet, higher than a commercial airliner flies, and raining down at 100 miles per hour. That's how you get this.
Hail pounded the southern plains Sunday, crashing down on homes and vehicles, eventually turning entire neighborhoods white. On the roads, car windshields were no match against the large hailstones that fell in some places faster than 100 miles per hour. Drivers crowded gas stations trying to protect their vehicles from the storm and dangerous road conditions. Even homes were vulnerable as hail punched through skylights.
You could hear it coming from the distance, just like a stampede, and all of a sudden it just loud thuds hitting our skylight.
Hail smashed the skylight at this Walmart, forcing the store to close for several hours after rain flooded the floor inside. On social media, people showed off the size of the hailstones, comparing some to baseballs. Hail was not the only threat, though. 2 tornadoes were reported in Texas and Oklahoma. The damage, though, was minor.
The good news, no injuries or deaths reported. But this is expensive. I mean, costly. In fact, last year, Texas had one of the most expensive hailstorms ever. It was in the San Antonio area. You know the price tag? About $1.2 billion.
According to scientists from Canada and the United States, an asteroid has been observed in Jupiter's orbit, which has been traveling against celestial traffic. The 5th planet from the Sun, Jupiter, is the largest in the solar system, 2.5 times as massive as all the other planets combined. And the gas giant shares its orbit around the Sun with numerous asteroids, one of which apparently journeys around the solar system in reverse, traveling in the opposite direction of Jupiter and all the other planets. Named asteroid 2015 5ZB09, it is the first object ever discovered by scientists to travel backwards while in orbit, and researchers have determined that it's been doing that for approximately 1 million years.
4 people were killed and nearly 200,000 customers were left without power on Wednesday morning after powerful storms pounded Texas and Oklahoma, bringing tornadoes, torrential rain, and hail to the majority of both states. The system squashed utilities in North Texas, where provider Encore said about 150,000 of its customers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area were without power on Wednesday morning. The storms didn't ground any flights, however. It did create a number of closures in schools across Texas from Dallas to Fort Worth.
Overnight, 15 million Americans in the crosshairs. Severe storm systems whipping across the South. Tornado warning sirens blaring with funnel clouds forming across western Kentucky. Drivers struggling to see the roads through the torrential rains. High winds destroying this large brick sign and turning trees to trash on busy roads. In Mississippi, dangerous twisters tearing through the area. This ominous funnel cloud spotted right off this highway. This heavy hailstorm in Alabama forcing everyone indoors.
This is creepy. I have never seen this in the 11 years
We've lived here. For those on the road, visibility is reduced to near whiteout conditions, and high winds and heavy rains interrupting this baseball game in north central Alabama. Golf ball-sized hailstones pelting swimming pools from Mississippi and Alabama to Texas, where larger, more dangerous baseball-sized ones shatter this car windshield.
According to the Associated Press, the storms that bore down on southern plains states brought powerful winds that upended a tractor-trailer on an Oklahoma interstate, killing the driver. Meanwhile, in West Texas, 3 storm chasers died in a collision as they raced toward a tornado-warned storm. The 3 storm chasers, including 2 who were contractors for the Weather Channel, were killed in a collision at a remote intersection near the town of Spur.
Well, we have some very sad news to report. There was a car accident near Spur, Texas on Tuesday. It claimed the lives of 3 members of the weather community, 2 of which worked with the Weather Channel. So here's what happened, according to the Texas Department of Public Safety. 57-year-old Kelly Williamson, that's him on the right. You've probably seen the show before on the Weather Channel, Storm Wranglers. Him and his longtime chasing partner and friend, 55-year-old Randall Yarnell, he's on the left. They were on assignment for the Weather Channel, traveling northbound on a country road in Texas when they ran a stop sign, and they collided with a black Jeep that was traveling westbound on another country road. Now, the driver of that Jeep, turns out that was another storm chaser, 25-year-old Corbin Yeager. Kelly wasn't wearing a seatbelt. He was ejected from the Suburban. The other 2 people involved in the crash, Randy and Corbin, they were wearing their seatbelts, but the crash was just too violent. All 3 of them, Williamson, Yarnell, and Yeager, they were all pronounced dead at the scene. Now, to give you an idea of where this happened, this was on Tuesday. There were a lot of storms firing up in this area, Spur, Texas, just south of Amarillo. Now, when you think about storm chasers getting into accidents, a lot of the times you think people making unsafe passes. It actually wasn't particularly crowded in the area they were at, and it was not a storm that caused this crash. They were far away from storms going toward them. The crash is still under investigation. Here's what Stephanie Abrams had to say about Randy and Kelly.
Kelly and Randy were beloved members of the weather community as well as true weather fans. We will miss them. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families and friends of all 3 victims as they mourn this loss.
1,000 new cholera cases are being registered across Somalia every day. Children are the most vulnerable to the disease, which is both curable and preventable.
This is a major disease outbreak that the country is facing, especially the southern regions. It's 3 times more than we had in 2015, and we already have in 3 months more than we had the past year alone. So right now, all the efforts are being concentrated to avert a further spread of the disease. It's really the top priority to save lives.
Aid groups are already scrambling to help people suffering from a severe drought, mass malnutrition, and facing famine. Somalia has declared a state of emergency with nearly 3 million people affected. Without access to clean water, people are searching for whatever water they can find. Some is filthy, contaminated with diseases like cholera. The United Nations says it's only raised about a third of the $864 million it says it needs to tackle the crisis. The European Union is sending money and expertise. This hospital is saving lives, but hundreds of other people have died from cholera this year.
It's been 2 days since Xiaoyou Liu was shot dead by police, and the Chinese community in Paris remains angry. Protesters spent a second night outside a police station in northeastern Paris, demanding more information about how and why he died.
We want to ask the police, we want to know the situation, we want to know the detail.
Xiaoyou Liu was at home with his family when plainclothes police arrived. They say they were responding to a domestic dispute. Police say Liu attacked them with scissors. His family say he didn't attack anyone and was shot without warning.
The family is very traumatized, shocked by what they've gone through, because don't forget that his 2 daughters were sitting next to him when he was shot at close range. And the family is also shocked by the accounts given by the police force.
Now the Chinese government has lodged a complaint.
The Chinese embassy in France has sent officials to visit the family of the deceased and has offered assistance. The competent department in the Foreign Ministry today summoned the official in charge of the French embassy in China to make a complaint. We will continue to follow the development of this case together with our embassy in France and ensure the safety and legitimate right and interest of Chinese citizens and institutions in France.
But frustration in Paris is evident. 35 people were arrested and 3 police injured during demonstrations on Monday night. France is home to about 2 million ethnic Chinese, more than any other country in Europe. Some complain they've been racially abused and that the police have done little or nothing to protect them. France's foreign ministry says the security of the Chinese community in France is a priority. It and the police have opened inquiries into Xiaoyao Liu's death.
2 African-American women employed by Fox News filed a lawsuit against the channel and against recently axed comptroller Judy Slater, alleging a broad pattern of top-down racial harassment. They claim the company has tolerated the harassment for years. According to the suit, as well as a second individual familiar with the network's investigation, Slater regularly stereotyped African-American employees' speech, openly complaining that they mispronounced words. Reportedly, on one occasion, Slater asked one of the women if all 3 of her children were fathered by the same man.
According to the Associated Press's recently released report, the effects of the bathroom bill could be into the billions over the next dozen years. $3.76 billion in loss into businesses in the state over the next 12 years. They got that number from Commerce Department projections for several large companies that backed out of projects because of the law. The number also includes dozens of canceled sporting events, concerts, and conventions. But there are other sources that show the Tar Heel state has a healthy economy, estimated at $500 billion a year. The federal government reported North Carolina had one of the fastest growing economies after the law passed. Now, some of those future losses aren't definite just yet. The NCAA will announce this week where they're going to hold the 2018 through 2020 tournaments. Now, they say if the state were to repeal House Bill 2 this week, there's a chance some of those lost tournaments could come back.
Today is a deadline for contractors to submit proposals for the first part of President Trump's Mexico border wall. Custom and Border Protection says it must be 18 to 30 feet high and extend at least 6 feet underground to block tunnels. It should be difficult to climb or breach and be aesthetically pleasing on the U.S. side. The U.S. side, okay. CBS News has learned the first 48 miles will go up in San Diego and along the Rio Grande at a cost of nearly $1 billion. David Begnaud is in Brownsville, Texas, where this wall could split a community right in two. David, good morning.
Gail, good morning from the border. This golf course has, in the past, been a runway for people coming here illegally. From the other side, that's Mexico. They would swim across the Rio Grande, run up onto the golf course, and watch this. They would run into this cane right here, hiding themselves or their drugs. But the golf course's owner has started to cut down the cane, and with it, the number of people coming here illegally has dropped dramatically. Now, President Trump's new wall may help. However, it would divide 700 Americans who live right here in this community. With more than 300 acres, the Riverbend Resort is one of the few areas left in Brownsville, Texas, without a border fence. Many of the retirees who live here want to keep it that way.
It's not needed. Border Patrol's in here all the time. They launch their boats at our boat ramp, and they're here within 30 seconds.
Greg High and his wife Lauren voted for President Trump. They think the money for the wall would be better spent on resources for border agents.
They need updated technology equipment, better cameras, maybe some more drones.
A treaty with Mexico prohibits anything that could obstruct or deflect the Rio Grande. So when the Bush administration built its border fence, it wanted to do it right in the middle of River Bend. If the Trump administration follows suit, the wall goes up. Essentially what it does is splits the resort community in half. And you've got 200 people living on this side and 400 of their friends on what becomes the Mexican side of the wall. That would mean 70% of the resort, including 15 holes on the golf course, would become kind of a no man's land between the fence and the actual border.
But it's not just a golf course, it's a family business.
Jeremy Bernard is another Trump supporter. He's also Riverbend's general manager.
We have 30,000 golfers a year. You're going to give 30,000 golfers an access code to come through and play their holes?
John Garrett owns JP Construction, a Fort Worth company with 50 employees. He's submitting his border wall proposal today.
It's going to create a lot of jobs for unemployed construction workers, veterans, individuals.
The Trump administration is seeking bids for prototypes with a see-through component and made with concrete or other materials.
They never talk about all the people that died trying to make it across to the United States illegal. So, you know, I think it'll save a lot of lives also.
The federal government controls less than a third of the nearly 2,000-mile-long southern border. The rest belongs to the states, Native American tribes, or like River Bend, is privately owned. The government could come in, offer you an amount, and if you don't like it, they could seize it through eminent domain. You know that.
I do, yeah.
But I get the sense that you're ready to fight.
If that happens, then we have already retained a lawyer, and we're ready to make sure that we're compensated fairly for it.
New at noon, shots fired near the U.S. Capitol after police tried to stop an erratic driver. One suspect is in custody. Fox 23's George Colley is at the scene for us in Washington.
I'm just about a block from the U.S. Capitol where just before 9:30 this morning, police noticed a car driving erratically down Independence Avenue. They tried to pull a female driver over. That's when she tried to get away, hitting at least one car. Shots were fired, but police say that nobody was injured. As we take a look at the scene behind us, investigators are starting to comb the scene. They've been combing the scene since shortly after 9:30 this morning when this incident happened. The most important thing that we learned from the U.S. Capitol Police in a very brief statement that they made just a short time ago was that while this is criminal in nature, there is no apparent link to terrorism.
The investigation is in the preliminary stages, and more details will be released as warranted.
Now, this incident happened on the House side of the U.S. Capitol. For a short time, the House office buildings were in lockdown. They are back to business at this time. Now, this city is a little bit on edge. There's been some security incidents with fence jumpers outside the White House. You had that terror attack in Britain last week outside the Parliament. Fortunately, it does not appear that there's any terror link here.
Prime Minister, are you ready for the fight ahead?
British Prime Minister Theresa May at last firing the starting gun for Brexit on Wednesday. Her letter to Brussels delivered at lunchtime by the British ambassador to the EU, Tim Barrow. That officially launches the UK's withdrawal from the European Union under Article 50.
We already an issue. Thank you and goodbye.
We are going to take control of the things that matter most to us. And we are going to take this opportunity to build a stronger, fairer Britain.
May telling the House of Commons that this marks the moment the country must come together.
That is our ambition and our opportunity.
Since Britain's voted for Brexit in a referendum last June, the scale of the challenge and the UK's demands have steadily become clear. Both a so-called hard Brexit and the best possible deal in May's sights. But May has revealed more of her battle lines than her tactics. One early obstacle to having it all, an exit bill that could run to tens of billions of euros.
I think the best case scenario is actually the 2-year time frame is up. People think, oh, we've got ourselves into a terrible mess here. Let's extend the negotiations. Article 50 allows those negotiations to be extended. There's no realistic possibility of getting a full, comprehensive, deep trade deal by 2019. If the negotiations are extended, the political situation could change, and the British people might develop a more realistic understanding of their negotiating position and their weak bargaining power.
Westminster has 2 years to secure a deal. After months of wrangling and speculation, the UK's phony Brexit war is finally getting real.